Today I'm looking at how do you choose to live your life? I mean, what is the choice you make about your life? Do you realize that life is made up of choices? The power of this month, and this comes from the 12 powers that we talk about in Unity, is the power of will, is signified by the color silver. And the power of will is the power to choose. And we make choices every day, all the time. This last week, there were times where, and I'm getting better at this, where I can look at something objectively and I ask myself the question, do you want to get angry? Instead of just getting angry, I ask myself, do you want to get angry? Well, no, not really. Why not? Well, because typically that doesn't help the situation, that doesn't improve anything. Okay, so how do you want to respond? Well, maybe by observing, maybe just by coming from the presence of Spirit, maybe just by being the presence of love, being the presence of the Christ. Oh, okay, let's do that. It's a choice. Every single thing that you do is a choice. The way you feel, you might try to blame someone else. And a lot of people do that, right? Blame others for how they feel. You made me feel angry. You made me feel abused. You made me feel disrespected. You made me feel blah, blah, blah. Actually, our feelings come within us. We are the ones in charge of our feelings. They're actually, in a way, our feelings aren't even us. We can observe them. If one meditates for long periods of time, you can observe your feelings. Have you ever done this? Where you go into meditation, you can observe, oh, anger, oh, pain, oh, resentment, oh, jealousy, oh, envy, oh, peace, whatever. We can observe those feelings. That means that you are the director of your movie. Each one of us is creating a movie. What kind of movie do you want to create? Have you seen the newest Indiana Jones movie? Any of you? Yeah. I mean, right from the very beginning, it starts with action and chase scenes and running for your life. Right from the beginning. And there are those people who in their lives feel like they are constantly having to be on the defensive and have to watch for what other people are going to do to them. Have you ever noticed? There are those who get into what is called victim consciousness. If I were to show a picture of victim consciousness, just imagine your face with an arrow sticking through your head. So it's sticking out on both sides, and walking around being the victim. And we can do that. I've done it. Has anyone else here ever played the victim? Sometimes, it can be kind of fun, People feel sorry for you, and you can blame someone else, and you don't have to take responsibility for yourself because it's something that someone else did. But that's giving all your power away. That's giving all your power away. And you might say, well, I prefer not to make a choice about that. I just want to live the way I feel and be like a leaf on the water and blow wherever the wind takes me. And you can do that. One of my favorite rock groups, I have many. One of my favorite rock groups is the group Rush, Canadian rock group. And they have this song entitled Free Will. And it says, if you have decided not to make a choice, you still have made a choice. Because it's your decision. What do you choose to do with your life? And another way to ask this question might be, where do you choose to live your life from? Now, I've wondered this with the situation in Maui. It's sad. I worked as a professional hospital chaplain for 28 years. I'm a board-certified chaplain with the Association of Professional Chaplains. And so I have been trained in disaster response. And I've gone to disasters, and I've been part of disasters, like in Wichita, Kansas, when a suburb of Wichita, Andover, about 25,000 people, for the most part was wiped off the map by an EF5 tornado. And I was at the hospital that day, and it was just packed. The waiting room, the hallways, anywhere there was any space, there were people laying in mud, blood, and urine, moaning and groaning. So I've been in those disaster situations. And when I've been in those situations, I ask myself, where do I want to respond from? Where do I want to live from? Do I want to live from panic? Well, that doesn't help the situation, especially with so many people who are grieving and panicking. Where do I want to live from? And many times what I've chosen to do is live from that place of spirit. Now you might say, where is that? Where is the place of spirit? Jesus spoke about this numerous times. He spoke about it in John chapter 4, John chapter 7. In John chapter 4, Jesus is talking to a Samaritan woman. Jesus was Jewish. Jesus was a Jewish rabbi. Okay? He wasn't Christian. There weren't Christians yet. He was Jewish. And very novel Jewish rabbi, but Jewish. And the Jewish people and the Samaritans would not have any interaction or dealings with one another. There had been lots of bad things that had happened between them. There was a lot of animosity. And it was considered you would become unclean. You would become tainted. You would become dirty by talking to a Jew or by talking to a Samaritan, depending on which side you were on. It was that bad. Jesus, who broke all kinds of social norms and mores because he was always living from the place of spirit, not from the place of somebody's telling me to do this or someone's telling me to do this, but he was coming from the place of strength, the place of God, the place of spirit, what we call verity consciousness. Instead of victim consciousness, verity consciousness is living as that presence of God. And so Jesus was talking with a Samaritan woman, and she was very surprised that he would stop and talk with her. And he asked her for a drink because they were at a well. It was Jacob's well, and he asked her for a drink, and she said, "How can you, a Jew, ask me, a Samaritan, for a drink? And basically, why are you talking to me?" Jesus said to her, "Everyone who drinks of this water shall thirst again. But whoever drinks of the water that I shall give them shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give them shall become in them a well of water springing up to eternal life." And then, as Reverend Margie mentioned in the reading, later in chapter 7 of John, Jesus refers to this as the Spirit in us. Do you recognize that there is a well of Spirit, a well of eternity, a well of God in us? You have this well in you. Now, at my parents' home, I remember when we built that home. It was in the middle of a wheat field. And we dug this well and put this pipe that goes way, way, way down into the water table to get water. And later on, that well got capped off or stopped. The well is there in you, but do you have it capped off? Are you in touch with it? You have a source of wisdom, a source of love, a source of strength. You have a source of God, of divinity living in you. But are you tapping into it? Some people say, well, I don't know how to find it. Well, there are some practices, and again, I will be having these classes on August 22nd, August 29th, and September 5th at 6:30. It'll be in person only this time. Later on, I'll do an online, but this time will be in person only here in the chapel. It's for free. We'll have a love offering. And if you're interested, please sign up. If you sign up with your email, I will send you a free book that talks about whole body mystical awakening. You'll see where we're going with this. I mean, and it's a wonderful book. And you'll get it for free if you sign up. So there are practices of how to get in touch with that. How to get in touch with that presence of being within us. Like we go to our heart center. Some of you may be used to this in meditation. Do some of you sometimes go to your heart center in meditation? Yeah. And then there's a lower region. You could call it your gut. You could call it your belly. You could call it na'au. In whole body mystical awakening is also referred to as our spiritual womb. Whatever your gender, that place of creativity, that place of knowing. Have you ever had a gut knowing? Maybe you walked into a place and you thought, this is not the right place for me to be. Or maybe you walked into a situation and something about it did not feel safe. Did you listen? Or did you just ignore it? You just try to override it. Good. I mean, there have been times where, now, again, this last week, the more I found out about what was going on in Maui, what was going on in Lahaina, and the more I watched, I felt this, it's hard to describe, like pain and grief. And it seems centered right here. We often can sense from this gut level, from this divine womb, if you will. But it's always to bring us to some higher level. We can learn to meditate in these different areas and also be very rooted with our feet, like imagining roots coming from our feet into the ground and being really connected with the earth and connected with everyone. There are ways for us to get in touch with this spirit, this presence of God within. We also have Wednesday night services at 7 o'clock that are meditation services, prayer services, right here in the chapel. I know Catherine also leads them online. They're two separate things. So online with Catherine, and we also have one live here in the service that is a contemplative service, prayerful, to get in touch. And not just to get in touch with our spirit, but to feel that with one another. When we go into that alignment of the presence of God, when we tap into that well, we realize it's not just our well. It's a common well that we all have, and we all go into this connection with one another. As a young minister, I studied frequently the journal of George Fox. George Fox was one of the founders of the Quaker movement. And so I read lots of Quaker information and read about George Fox, and I've been very, very influenced by that. The whole idea that the Christ light is within us. George Fox saw it being very important in John chapter 1 when it says, this light came into the world, enlightening everyone who comes into the world. That every one of us has this light, has this well, has this presence. All of us have it. And the Quakers practiced really going into it. And then, and again, if you get the book, you will find out how to even connect in that presence so that we can even begin to speak to needs that are in the community. A word of wisdom. A word that someone just needed to hear for that day. Let me give an example. And when we live from the place of spirit, this is how we can live. So I was walking in the parking lot of Whole Foods in Kailua, and I live in Kailua. And contrary to what you might think, angels don't necessarily come down and physically fan me every day, and not everything is always just hunky-dory. Sometimes, right? We're all human. And so I was just feeling a little cut off, a little isolated yesterday. So I was in the parking lot and brought the grocery cart up to my car and unloaded the groceries. And I heard this voice behind me. Reverend Tim, can I get that cart from you? And you're probably watching. And I turned, and it was Catherine Kane, who lives in the area also. And she just ran up to me with tears in her eyes and embraced me and just held me and told me how much I mean to her. When we allow ourselves to be in that realm of spirit, we can speak the word to someone that they need to hear at that moment. Paul talks about this in 1 Corinthians, chapters 12, chapter 14, where people were experiencing these spiritual gifts and could give a word of wisdom to someone, or some encouragement to someone, or a prayer for someone. That is, what we experience in this whole body mystical awakening is not just individualistic, which our culture emphasizes so strongly, but it's also something to build up the whole beloved community, to build up what the Bible calls the body of Christ. We are that body. We are here to be that for each other, each one of us. And I'm opening more and more to listen to the voice of Spirit, to what is happening in people's lives, so that hopefully I can say a word of encouragement. I can do something and respond in a way that is coming from a place of Spirit. We can come from this wellspring of Spirit rather than a place of reactivity, fear, anxiety, and defensiveness. I say hi and good morning and aloha to almost every person I pass. About 1 out of 10 responds to me. I think because people are in their own world. It's not because they're bad people. They've learned to kind of enclose themselves and cut themselves off. But when we are coming from that place of Spirit, when we are living from there, we are really living into our soul's purpose. And that's what I'm encouraging us to choose to do, is to really live our soul's purpose by living from that place of spirit. Have you experienced it? Where just the right words came to you to say to someone else? Or just the right action? Where something came to you and you knew it was yours to do? Has that ever happened with you? I encourage you to just allow it to happen. More and more, I'm just allowing it and going with it. And like I told someone recently, I said, I see you. I know your heart. I know you only desire God. When we really speak to someone from that place of spirit, it opens them up and opens us up to that realm of spirit. I don't want to live my life, this is my choice. I will not live my life based on reactivity, based on fear, based on anxiety. I choose to live from spirit. I encourage you to live from that place. That place where there is no fear, where God is always there. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 28, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. That presence is always there. I have really, really close friends who are in recovery, and I've gone to 12-step groups when it's their birthday, to celebrate 35 years of sobriety or whatever. And, not everyone in 12-step groups, some are struggling, some are just, it's a day-by-day process. Take it day by day. And yet there is something encouraging about being there with one another and supporting one another and to continue to show up. And I like the statement that's said many times as we have joined hands at the end of a meeting. It works if you work it. It's our choice. It's our choice to live from a place of spirit. It works if you work it. It's our choice to connect at the space of spirit, which Paul Smith and Luke Healy call we space. To come from that we space of spirit where we build the beloved community. That is my prayer. In the fall, we're also going to have quantum living process taught by Reverend Margie online, so that we can identify who we've really come here to be and deal with some of those shadow aspects of ourselves. I'm encouraging us to develop. We're not like, we just hatch out of an egg and here we are and then we just wait till we die. We're here to develop. And I encourage you to choose spirit. Thank you. And I invite you in this meditation maybe to put your hands over your heart and breathe deeply into your heart. Breathe deeply into your heart space. This spaciousness of spirit. Jesus referred to these wells of water living within us, rising up to everlasting life. Just breathe into that presence. Breathe into that spirit that you are. And then perhaps imagine this spiritual womb, the gut. And just know know the presence of God rising up in you, rising up as you. We are in the presence. We are surrounded by the presence. We are the presence as we go into the silence. We give thanks, Spirit. We give thanks for your Spirit living in us, through us, and as us. We give thanks for this community online, here in person, surrounded and filled with Spirit and coming from a place of Spirit. For this we give thanks, and so it is. Amen.